Welcome to the Reds Reviews podcast. We are brought to you by Paperhead.com. Right now, there is a promo for $3 for 3 months. That promo does include everything on the plate. It is a premium promo. So check it out at Paperhead.com and let's get on with the Reds Reviews podcast. All right, so what's going on, guys? How are you? This is Red. We're just checking in for the week. We got a bunch of stuff going on with the college football, which has been the main topic. I think that it's upcoming, right? The NFL's doing okay. Everybody seems to be, there's been some injuries already, which is unfortunate. Just in the practices, which will affect a lot of the major teams. However, let's take a look at the college football, okay? So the Big Ten already opted out of the season, and Pac-12, Big 12. But the issue is that the Big Ten has had a ton of really angry parents. Tons of coaches have spoken out, like the Nebraska coach, Ohio State's coach, the old Ohio State's coach. They've all had their opinion on it, and they've all talked about it directly. And so what it's actually creating is kind of an interesting political demographic change. So you see the SEC, where they're the Southern boys and everything, and they got their division that they're going to be running, obviously, without question, according to what they proposed. And so that's been the issue. Some of these players are transferring out of the Big Ten and trying to find places to play, and I respect that. I think that it's something that everybody should have their own choice. And as far as the way that the Big Ten is handling this, again, they're doing it out of safety concerns, right? Safety concerns for the players, where they'll be tested continuously, have access to full medical every week, and most likely probably have bubble formats and anything else that's going on within the school's protocols. And it's just what's interesting to me, though, is really just how deaf the majority of the actual programs are. Like, if you're the Big Ten and you have every single parent almost I'm sure there's some that aren't on board with saying that we should play, but if you have this many people coming out of the woodwork and saying, like, what are you doing? A, you're taking away an opportunity from my child, and B, it's not a safety issue. And if it was a safety issue, I'm sure that any of these people have already had to sign waivers anyway if they have injuries on school property or premise. So why would we do anything differently for this? And so it's what it actually is turning into is that I think some of these schools, like Nebraska, was going to come and play in the SEC, but they ended up having to retract that statement just because of the backlash from the upper management in the Big Ten, where they said that they were going to kick them out of the division. And so you just see all this like random stuff that if one set, like if the SEC is going to play, why would anyone else not? Like, again, it just doesn't make sense. The divide in belief. Like, we all need to start looking at facts. Everybody in any sports industry needs to start looking at the facts of what's happening, okay? So on top of all this other stuff, right? You got the NFL running. The NBA is going flawlessly, right? They've had 0 positive tests the entire time. So, that's obviously a format that's much harder to replicate, especially for football. But again, these things that they were talking about as far as safety concerns go aren't a thing. It's just not a thing for anyone under the age of whatever. And all these athletes are under the age of 40 for the majority of them. There's like 1 or 2 in the NBA that are that age, and maybe Brady, right, that are over 40. But here we are. So all of these things are happening, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't care. My volumes and my usages on live wagering, it's people were so thirsty to play, to have something to do. They were so bored at home because of what was going on. Like, this is by far the last couple of weeks has been. Granted, I took some hits because the NBA is a strange phenomenon right now, with teams that were supposed to be amazing, right, coming in there and just being flops, getting swept. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the kinds of things that it's unfortunate to see because they might not have been qualified to be in the playoffs if they get swept that hard in the first round. Like, it's just not supposed to go that way in the first round. I can understand when they get through to the finals and it's two different, East, West, whatever. Like, but dude, you look at this in perspective. So the last couple of weeks where the things have been fully rolling, it's been actually really good for me. So after the first week, the second week rolled around, like I fared a lot better when it comes to actual wins losses. And to my surprise too, on top of that, my live dealer hasn't. I was expecting like a 30 to 40% usage decrease after as soon as sports came around on casino and live dealer. And the fact is that some of these guys, even though they already have wagers on everything else, I'm talking MLB, NBA, and some of the guys started playing soccer, and one of them, picked up on the horses a little bit, and yeah, it's crazy to me that it's stuck around this much. So they're playing that at night after the games are over or whatever. On top of that, during the morning, and so it's looking good. I'm just gonna keep it and say it like that. The 10th is gonna be here very soon. We got 15 days when I'm recording this right now. 15 days until we actually have real football again. Boy, talk about a shot. I think every player, even the guys that were dormant over a time period, are going to play. And what that means for my sheet is just that it's going to be a lot of action, and it's going to be an opportunity for me to make money. And that's the other positive about having live wagering and things active right now. Because what I didn't realize is that by offering every other market on the planet, I mean, basically the Live Plus or whatever they call it that they offer has lines and markets available that I would never even think of as far as a U.S. sports bettor. And that's why I'm saying, like, some of the guys have picked up soccer and these rinky-dink, like, matches, and I'm just like, yeah, it's great for me, but at the same time, it's new day, new age, right? Because this wasn't a thing, 3-4 years ago to have this much availability for lines, especially for a guy like me. And the other thing that I wanted to mention too, so they said that they have the poker's coming. They're in testing right now. I got a test account and I was looking at the tables and it looks really good. But that's still whether or not it'll be functional for players at the tournament level where I can schedule my weekly stuff. I don't know yet. I'm hoping that it will be, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to run tournaments and do things like that, because a weekly tournament for my players is great. For me, I'm not going to make a bunch out of it because the pocket's paid, to whoever wins. But again, they're on my site and they're playing on my site. It's instead of going and trying to find something else, PokerStars or whatever site that is out there that they're trying to use. I don't know. PokerStars is probably outdated. But again, the live dealer is also, like I mentioned before, doing well. Even though it is a little weird. I went and looked at it the other day. One of my players mentioned the fact that the girls were wearing a mask, which is another COVID-related casualty, right? Because it's part of the fun in the live dealers is seeing their faces and seeing them smile and giggle and all that kind of stuff. I guess I don't know. I'm not into that stuff. I would rather win than giggle. But there's another provider, vendor, whatever they call it, en route for us to be able to start using. And that's going to be another positive thing to be unloading on these guys. I'm definitely going to switch all my players over to it just because. This new vendor, I guess, is Euro, and they don't have to have the same regulations that the other one does. So I'm not sure that it'll help necessarily with volumes or anything like that, but maybe it'll keep them on the site longer because they're not looking at a mask. So as far as what's coming on top of that too, I know that there was talk of we obviously had the promo of free service for the entire time that helped me, at least on the finances, quite a bit. But there's an e-check thing that apparently it links a bank account and you can send stuff, because part of the issue with me as my site is kind of grown is being able to pay weekly on the paperhead fees, and having access to Bitcoin helps, because I'm pretty Bitcoin savvy. It's not that I know everything about it or how it works entirely, but I figured out how to get it, and I was able to send it. I actually ended up using XRP more than anything, but it's because of what I read on it. It's the one that's the most above label and not so weird to go and buy out of someone's garage, right? It's just so having the e-check thing is going to help along the lines that I'll be able to transfer money in the case that anything else fails. I'm not going to use it as consistently probably, but at least there is an option that is ironclad, because that's the beauty in connecting a bank account. So as a suggestion, moving forward, because of the laws and regulations and things that are changing, I can almost guarantee that by 2022 you'll see the entire East Coast basically having their version of a post up, or however wager station kind of thing, and maybe even in the arenas, who knows. It just depends on who's going to go out there and try and do this. But the difference is that all those players or anybody that's going to go in, there's going to be a square. There's not going to be the guy who's a grinder. Like, I have some grinders. I have some guys that literally do this and try to make a living out of it. And those guys, I'll never lose them as players. It's just not going to happen. A, because I play with, I give them credit. But B, because they have to pay. If they did win, let's say they put down $1,000, 12. I forget what the limit is. I think that in different states they have a different limit. Anything over $500 or something like that, you have to report and pay a tax on, like capital gains tax or something like that. It just depends on what state you're in. Some of them are higher, some are lower. But either way, you're supposed to report all of it. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to report in this game. So we're going to leave it at that. We're going to move on to the next week. Obviously, as the Big Ten decides what they're going to do, it will change the face of college football to a certain extent, right? Because we're not going to have all the teams anyway. But there is a schedule out for the SEC, and it looks fun to watch. There's big names in there, and it's going to be coming around, I think it was like the 30th, or I forget which day the first game was actually scheduled for, but it is after the NFL for the first time, and I don't even know when. Maybe ever, that the NFL started before the college football, the actual regular season. So I hope you guys enjoy the week, and it is good to you, and the odds are in your favor. And if you like the content, like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for tuning into the Reds podcast, brought to you by Paperhead.com. For all relative promos going on right now, please check them out at Paperhead.com. Also, opinion expressed on this show are not that of Paperhead.com. And if you do like what you hear, for all the agent news coming up, please like, subscribe, and follow. We will see you next week.